Today, I have the pleasure of interviewing the incredible Sophie Gelineau. Sophie's a fifth-year Bachelor of Arts student with a major in sociology and hopes to pursue a nursing after degree. She's in her fifth year on the Pandas track and field team as a pentathlete and relay competitor. She has a tremendous list of athletic accomplishments, including competing at 4 Canada West Championships, 3 national championships, contributing to a Pandas Canada West Women's Championship title, and winning a U Sports National Bronze Medal in the 4x800 meter. Sophie's also a track and field team captain and the University Athletics Board VP programming. I'm so excited to have the chance to interview Sophie today. So without further ado, let's get to it. First off, thank you so much for being here with us today, Sophie. It's really awesome of you to share your time for an interview.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Really excited to hear what you have to say and what we can get talking about. So the theme for today is wellness, mental health, well-being, staying active, and participating in sport differently. Obviously, that's a lot of ground, but all kind of a related topic in one sense. So I understand you recently spoke about being an athlete in a pandemic in a separate speaking engagement. Can you speak to that at all?
Yeah, so I was on a webinar with our sports psychologist at the U of A and one of our high performance coaches. And so we kind of talked about mental health through athletes, and we kind of also directed the conversation to kids ages 12 and up in sport and how they can kind of navigate through doing sport and physical activity through the pandemic. So I spoke a little bit about my experience as a student athlete and as a summer camps coach, and then it was really interesting to see the other two perspectives from a sports psych and a high performance coach, just to see how everyone was navigating the pandemic differently. But yeah, it was a really cool experience.
That's awesome. Is there somewhere we can access that or get a link or review that after the fact, or is that a live one-off kind of thing?
Yeah, so it's all recorded. So if you go to the U of A alumni website and then go to the webinars, there's a bunch of on-demand webinars that you can go in. So it's called How to Be an Athlete During a Pandemic. And so you should be able to click on it and watch it. It's all recorded.
Perfect. Thanks very much, Sophie. We'll be sure to include a link to that in the bio and in the description of this video. So that's awesome. That should be a ton of good content for everybody to watch. In the meantime, getting just on our topic as a first kind of field it out to you, do you have any kind of daily routine, any kind of thing you do on a daily basis about well-being, positivity, about that kind of deal?
Yeah, so I definitely do have a routine with like my sleep and my nutrition and the kind of recovery I have. So I try and go to bed and wake up at around the same time every day, just so that I feel well rested for practice. I definitely eat kind of the same foods every day, just so that I know what makes me feel good. I know what fuels me for practice. And definitely my rest days from practice, I kind of do the same thing. I put my feet up, or if I have to stretch or roll out or do things to prepare myself for the next practice. But yeah, every day I feel like I kind of have the same kind of routine with all my kind of self-care and prep for the day with my schoolwork, and then getting ready for my practice. And I think that's key kind of when you're a student athlete, is having a routine so that you are always prepared and organized. It's not always easy, but try to stay as organized as possible.
Totally. Keeping that balance is difficult. I'm seeing a lot of crossover, a lot of similarities between what you're saying you do to prep for athletics and that side of life, as well as what you do just to keep yourself feeling good, to keep yourself on top. Can you speak to that connection at all? Do you see any kind of threads there?
Yeah, so I definitely think that I put my goals kind of into the process of what I'm doing. So whether that's schoolwork or whether that's training, I always have goals that are related to my well-being. So for instance, for track, my goals are always drinking a certain amount of water per day, or eating foods that fill me up and make me feel healthy. Same with kind of my schoolwork. I need to get this amount of readings done, or feel prepared for whatever I'm doing. So I guess I don't have a ton of outcome goals. Like I want to have, this grade or achieve this in track. I just try and keep my goals kind of within the process.
Absolutely. That's a really healthy mindset. And I think something a lot of people could learn from. Process orientation is pretty key. You talked briefly about your schooling there and tying that in as well with those other two components. Do you think that sport has helped your schooling, or maybe schooling has helped your sport?
Yeah, I think that schooling has helped my sport, and sport has helped my schooling in many ways. I think one of the ways is that I look forward to practice kind of as a study break, and it helps form my day. So I feel like if I didn't have sport, I could kind of drag on my assignments or my studying all day. But because I know that I have sport at a certain time, I kind of have to manage my day a little bit better. So it helps me with time management. I think also sport has helped me to be pretty resilient, and I think that helps with school. I think that helps with a lot of different aspects of life. So I think with my organization, kind of perseverance, those all kind of are interrelated through athletics and academics.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So you said you like using practice as a bit of a study break. It can be a good escape in that sense. What's your favorite part of training or practice normally? Is it that escapism, or is there something about practice or some component of practice that you really enjoy?
So yeah, my favorite part of practices right now are kind of seeing everybody, and I think that's also to do with COVID, that everyone's just excited to get out of the apartment and see other people, kind of have some interactions. But I think in my younger years, I used to kind of I knew that training would be hard. I knew that it would be tough, so sometimes it could be seen as a chore. But I think as I've aged, it's kind of become more of a break, and I feel a sense of fulfillment when I've tried my best and worked hard. I feel, good about myself when I've worked out and taken care of my body. So after a workout, I feel good. And I also feel good after interacting with my friends and my teammates and having that sense of community. So I think my mindset has changed about what practice is like over the years. But I think right now, definitely my favorite part is seeing everybody and having those kinds of interactions.
Absolutely. Absolutely. When things were shut down a little bit, when you weren't able to see your teammates, how did you deal with like a modified training regimen and practice schedule? And how did you make an effort to keep social with your teammates?
Yeah, so I think when things first shut down, I had to make a big effort to stay on top of my training plan. I think it was easy to stray from the program, and so I realized I had to figure out key things to keep me on track. So I know for myself, I needed something to kind of work towards still. So I got my family members, parents involved, and made sure I had little competitions, even if it was just stuff that I looked up online. And I knew that I had to kind of test myself. So I'd get outside and run like a 5K as quickly as I could, or I'd try different exercises. So I think at first it was super tough, and it was hard to stay on track, and there was times where I lacked motivation. But then rather than thinking of competition or those outcome goals, I kind of just felt like during the time of the pandemic, it was nice to get outside, and it was nice to do something physically active, especially if my sisters or my parents were involved. So I think that's what kind of carried me through, is that missing just being physically active. And yeah.
Absolutely. It's nice that you're able to keep doing something, especially running obviously is directly relevant for you. It's nice, even that your family was engaged. That's a really good micro social sphere too. And I think that a lot of people could benefit from even just pursuing what social opportunities they have like that.
Yeah.
In
Really.
From the other side of it, has your coach done anything particularly engaging, or did your coach have any insightful strategies on how to deal with things?
So my coach had a lot of different strategies to help us kind of get through the pandemic and uh, be able to train. So I think we all had very different kind of individualized and modified programs, just because everybody had different access and lived in different places, so not everyone could be doing the same workout. So I think he also gave us a lot of freedom to kind of do what we wanted, and uh, try out biking or just running, or whatever we could kind of have access to at the time. So I think there was that. And then I think coming back into the track, I think now, not to put too much pressure on everybody with competition, because we don't know what's happening with that. I think we've had the freedom to kind of try some new things. And like yesterday, my group tried long jump, and we're a sprints group, but we're kind of have that time right now to try new events, which I think is a nice break for everybody, not to be doing the same thing, the same repetition, and let people try something new, have a little bit more fun at practice, which has been really nice and I think beneficial to everybody's mental health.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really, really essential to get a switch up in there and change. You did mention how things were pretty dramatically different, and now there's not so much of a push. There's not so much of competitive fire as much, in that it's important to be appreciative. It's important to be grateful and be back. Is there anything you do to really like tune into yourself and say, hey, you know what? Things are really good. I'm appreciative of the things I do have.
Yeah, I think that sense of gratitude for everybody comes from the fact that during a pandemic, uh, we're still able to practice and do sports, and I think that's uh, a huge, I think it just puts it into perspective how lucky we are to be able to still have a community of support and be able to be physically active and to even be healthy during a pandemic. And so I think a lot of people have uh, kind of noticed that recently, and we've talked about that at practice too. And I think uh, people, I see, it seems as though maybe there's less kind of push for competition, and maybe people aren't talking about that as much, but people are still trying to get healthy and get fit. And there's a lot more kind of a team atmosphere and people supporting each other and cheering each other on in practice. And so I think maybe if people aren't in tip-top shape to compete, people are still trying their best and people still want to show up and be there at practice.
Oh, absolutely. And that positive environment is just a game changer entirely.
Oh yeah.
Um, is there a particular mindset that's really helped you in a return and coming back, and especially with getting back to school now too? Is there something that you shape your mental framework and helps you be successful?
I think the mindset that I try to always have is to be grateful for sure, but also that um, to just know that I'm doing my best. I think in my athletic career, I think I've definitely had more failures than successes, for sure. And so I think when you put too much pressure on yourself, it starts to get really tough and practice isn't as fun. And you're kind of reaching for something that may be out of your scope. So I think once you realize that you're doing the best that you can do, I think that helps a lot. So for me, if I'm having a day where I feel fatigued or tired, or maybe I had a rough day at school, I try to give 100% of what I'm able to give at that practice. So maybe I only have 70% in me, but I'm giving 100% of that 70%. And so I think once I kind of have realized that I'm doing the best that I can do, I'm trying to take care of myself, I'm trying to be well balanced, then that kind of lifts a weight off your shoulders, that you're not trying to reach for something, you're just trying to be the best person that you can be. And once you keep kind of getting up every time you fall or every time you have a failure, you kind of gain that perspective and you're able to just keep pushing through and be happy that you're just there. And that's kind of what I've tried to do.
That's phenomenal. That's definitely, wow. That's going to make me rethink kind of what I'm going through on a daily basis and how to deal with that. But it's really hard to imagine you failing more than being successful. I don't know if you saw the same bio I saw there and we read through all those accomplishments, but in all seriousness, no, that's an excellent mental point. And I think that, yeah, some days you wake up and aren't at 100%, but you can give everything you did wake up with, and that's essential. Um, so building off of that a little bit, you mentioned earlier you're very process oriented rather than outcome oriented. So how do you define success and how do you get there?
So I think I've had to kind of change what I thought success was from maybe in my first or second year. And I think in my earlier years, I used to think success would be winning a gold medal or a certain points scoring that I wanted to score in a pentathlon or a certain time that I had to run. And now I've kind of realized that there's a lot of different ways that you can look at success. And so one of the ways that I looked at success is um, trying my best, just being the best version of myself and what I can achieve and not comparing to others. And I think that's another big thing in sport is looking at what other people are doing. And it's really hard to see other people sometimes even achieving your goals and you're not able to. But once you kind of change that and realize that you're a completely different person, you have a completely different life, you just need to focus on yourself and go to the best of your abilities, then your how you view success just all kind of changes. And so I think when I've finished a year where I feel like I've tried my best, I've made good connections with people at the track, I've maybe formed new friendships, tried to stay on top of my schoolwork, I feel successful. So it's definitely different than the outcome version of success, I guess.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that applies beyond even the sporting context. That works really well in a classroom, in a working world. All you can really worry about is you. You can't really necessarily control the outside factors. So if you're doing the best you can internally, then that's phenomenal.
Yeah.
I think that I had one last kind of point. I know that I have a friend who, oh man, he's missing everything so much right now. He'll compete to see who does the most laundry at home. Is there any creative ways you've been competing? Any creative stuff you've been doing to get that competitive fire?
Yes, so some of the ways that I've been trying to keep my competitive fire going or just stay competitive this time is with my teammates. Um, we try and push each other at practice, whether it's during a workout and kind of try to be competitive with each other, for sure. I think also during kind of the beginning of COVID when I was at home, I tried this one challenge. It was the US Navy SEALs challenge, I think, to see what I could score in my age group. And so I did that with my dad, and I kept trying to beat my score. And so I was doing that until I could be back with my group. And then once I was with my group, I think I've just my teammates and my group have been awesome trying to push each other and stay competitive at practice right now. And everybody right now wants to see each other succeed, which is awesome.
Totally. That's awesome. That's really cool. Well, I think that kind of wraps up our time here in terms of the interview today. But I really appreciate you coming out. And that was some awesome content that I think will really help some people. So thank you so much, Sophie.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. That was awesome.